iTunes, Spotify,
really cool.
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, Spotify.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Very cool. I recognize that music.
Yes. And now they can hear us. Wonderful. 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 Thanks for joining us, everybody, in the live chat on the live stream. Really appreciate y'all. Let's go ahead and set a marker here and then get started. Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR, Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 180. We hope you're well, and with everything crazy going on, we want to be a platform that promotes positivity in life. We all know that all life matters, but there's an issue in our country that we need to push awareness of, and that is Black Lives Matter too. So please check out our episode 174, where we talk about that particular issue, and we talk about hope in these difficult times. And hey, we even weave in some Star Wars, so ain't that fun? This week, we are shifting some gears, and we are talking about a music collaboration called the Dark Side EP. Welcome to the show, Anne Wiekman.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for being here. We also have Mr. Craven Morehouse. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Glad to have you on. And we have our regular cast, Miss Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for stopping by. And Mr. J.D. Barrow.
Hello.
And last, but certainly not least, Mr. Todd Hoffman.
What is up, everyone?
Thanks for joining us. Carla has the night off. She will be dearly, dearly missed, but we'll be back before you know it. And also before you know it, our little segment we'd like to call Cantina Chat. Okay, our part of the show where we talk about all things geeky, nerdy, and weird. Heather, what have you been up to as of late?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I feel like I should have more nerdy things than I do, but every time I say that, I end up with a laundry list of things. But
by all means.
True. It's true.
So, like most of America, I watched Hamilton on Disney Plus. I highly recommend it if you've not seen it. It's a good time. And
Hold on. There's one fun fact, though. I did not know you're a Hamilton fan, and we were coming back from Celebration, and you just start rapping some Hamilton. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I didn't even know Hamilton was like this. I thought it was some kind of British, like, I knew it was a musical. I just didn't know that they kind of rapped and stuff. And you're just busting out these like Hamilton things. I was like, this is another talent I didn't know you had.
I'm fairly white, but I do it. And that was fun. But since I happened to be on Disney Plus, I finished season 3 of Clone Wars.
Wow.
I know. Isn't everyone excited for me? So we're getting started on season 4.
Wow. You're in the big time now.
Yeah. So now it's just going to ramp up, and I'll be gone for the next couple weeks because I'll just be zoned in on it. So we'll see how that plays out. So that's been my TV watching nerdum. But I also, I don't know, decided that Carla needed some competition. So I sewed an Imperial officer hat over the July 4th weekend.
Ooh.
That is very American. It's very American.
Nothing says America like,
Imperial government.
Imperial uniforms.
So
it's as American as it gets.
That's right. And then I bought a pattern for the pants, jodhpurs as they're more commonly called.
And I've been in the city. I have no clue how the pants look like.
So they're kind of like riding pants, and they have the big wide hip situation that stick into the boots. And so I have to do a little bit of modification. So I bought muslin fabric to do a test run before I cut into the expensive fabric. So that's all happening. So I'll keep you posted on the Imperial officer outfit build.
I think every podcast you should wear what you made, so that eventually you'll have the full
thing. Got it. All right. Next time.
Yeah.
And then lastly, this past weekend, I had a friend come into town, and we are big antiquers. So we drove out to the Volo Antique Mall in Volo, Illinois.
Where the heck is that?
I don't know. It's an
First
hour.
time I'm hearing about it. Yeah.
It's let's see. I'm in the Wheaton area of Illinois, and it's about an hour and 10-ish minutes away from me north. So Google
almost to Wisconsin.
I don't know. But there's
The
like
system doesn't appear in the archives. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
There's a Volo. So there's the Volo Antique Mall and the Antique Car Museum. So it's kind of a destination, but got some really cool nerdy stuff. I picked up a little plastic R2D2 from probably late 70s, early 80s. Like it looks legit old school. I picked up some Jawa figurines because I'm a Jawa and that's what I do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was tons of fun. Saw quite a few of the Vader carrying cases.
Yeah.
You carry everything. So
that's right.
Yeah. So that's sort of my past couple weeks of nerdum.
Wonderful. Todd, you've been up to a great many things.
Great many things. Yeah. Great episode last week, guys, on Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Wish you could have been there.
Yeah. No, I was there in Jedi spirit. Reading Shadowfall. So that's been pretty good. We're in this Back to the Future 2 kick. So we watched Back to the Future. I introduced Trent to Back to the Future. And so now we're watching Back to the Future 2. And then I didn't realize, because I haven't watched it since, it came out, that, oh my gosh, Rick and Morty is like Back to the Future 2. So I knew it was a little ripoff, but it's so crazy. We reached 500 followers on Big T Little T podcast. So that was a pretty good milestone this last week. Well done. And then I had the cereal incident. And little context, Trent usually, when there's something cool he wants to see he wants me to see on Netflix, he's like, Dad, this is an emergency. You have to come over here. So I go over there, and it's like a Wilhelm scream in a TV show that he picks out, like, here, check this out. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But this is not an emergency. Let me tell you what an emergency is. So Monday after the 4th, I took off, and I'm painting in the garage. We're painting the whole house. So I'm painting cabinets now. And he comes outside. Dad, this is an emergency. And I'm like, dude, I'll be right there. He's like, no, Dad, this is an emergency. So I come inside. He's like, look, and there's cereal milk all over my laptop. All over. Like that
counts.
He went for the big glove, and I think he dropped the bowl, and it just went over. And I was like, oh, no. I'm like Luke. I'm like, no.
I feel that on a spiritual level.
Yeah. So I freaked out, So I force pushed him away. No, it was fine. I just said, okay, let's take care of this, So luckily, I am podcasting on this laptop right now. It has survived. Oh. It's got a second life. Little cleaning, little TLC, took it all apart and air dried it, put it in rice, all that fun stuff, and it's kicking. So it was an emergency. That's been my week. So there you go.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad it all turned out
worked
for the best.
Yeah. Bypass the compressor and it's all good, man. So
excellent. JD, what have you been up to?
That is a loaded question.
Besides the whole getting married thing.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, I'm getting married in a couple weeks, and that has
congratulations.
Congrats.
Like how many weeks do you have you have to have a countdown now? I mean,
I don't have a countdown.
Do you not know how many weeks, or
it's
somewhere in the range of a month?
It's under 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So yeah, it's slowly become this all-consuming thing as weddings tend to do. So that's been the majority of my life. I wouldn't say there's anything geeky or nerdy about that. And then outside of that, I've got sucked into a new book series. It's called Awaken Online. It's quite good. It's quite fun.
Are you awoke?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe by the end of the series, I'll be awoken.
Okay.
And so that's been a very fun read. I would definitely recommend it. Each book is like $2 on Kindle, and each one comes with a free audible book version. Say that 5 times fast. So yeah, I had to make a couple trips down to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and which is like 5 hours away. And I've been throwing those books on, listening to them. So that's been a great use of that. And then it's been weird how much of recent, like the past 5 days, D&D has just suddenly exploded into my life once again. Mostly based through circumstance of people coming to me and saying like, hey, we'd love for you to DM a one-shot with us. And that happened like 3 times. And then older groups said that they wanted to DM. So in the past like 4 days, I think I've played in or DM'd about 5 games. Just all randomly, sporadically.
How does one D&D over, are you zooming over for D&D or what?
Yeah, so there's this really nice online application. It's called Roll20. Many people will be familiar with it.
Wait, there's an app for it? Yeah.
There's a whole website dedicated to it.
Nice.
It's an old site. It's been up for a long time. Yeah, so that kind of just came out of nowhere and kind of filled up my life for a few days.
Nice. Awesome.
JD, I think you have a problem.
Yeah.
I did not ask for this. I did not seek it out. It found me.
Maybe that's like a job opportunity. You're like, hey, you need somebody to DM your game. I'm your guy, you know?
Could potentially. I
Stranger
know
things
there's
have
other
happened.
there's the whole Adventures League conference, which is basically like D&D's Comic-Con, when they have local places that they meet every other week, and then they have a bunch of big conventions that, you know, used to before the plague happened around the country. Yeah. And they'd sponsor people to be DMs for them. Just too many rules.
Yeah, I have a friend who there's like a local game shop that before the pandemic he would run games every week for, and they'd pay him based on how many players attended his game, I believe. And so it's a legitimate thing. Maybe not now, but it's a legitimate thing. Wonderful.
The only problem is like, if you want to have any level of fun, they're like, no, that's against the rules. You have to do the rules for everything. It's like, what if I want to just like, you know, do one fun thing? No, if it's not in the rules, it's not allowed.
Just rules is written all the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's no fun. Cool. So I will go next. I have recently my new roommate moved in, and we've been.
How many roommates do you got now?
Just one. One moved out, and the other moved in like on the same day.
Like 2 passing ships.
Yeah.
Efficient.
Yeah. We've been getting along pretty well. Thank God. And we both have a shared love for animation. So he's been showing me a couple of different things. The Batman animated series, which I just have completely snoozed on, but it is tremendous. And in the same vein, the Superman animated series. He also showed me Looney Tunes, both like classic Looney Tunes, like all the way back to like the 40s and the 50s. And they have like a newer series, which a lot of it was made during quarantine. So it's been quite the challenge, but they are just absolutely hilarious.
So you've been watching cartoons, basically.
It's animation, Todd, not cartoons.
Just call it. You've been watching cartoons.
Yeah. And on Disney Plus, he showed me they have these like Mickey Mouse shorts, which they're like made with a lot of traditional animation techniques in mind, but the humor and the pacing is very modern, and it's pretty funny. I like it a lot.
Those they actually had those at like Disney, like when you turn on, you're in your room. Yeah. Now they have them on Disney Plus. They're very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of animation or just want to laugh or two, they're short. They're shorts. They're like 8 minutes long, but if you're like looking for a reason to justify your Disney Plus subscription after The Mandalorian has ended, look no further than the Mickey Mouse shorts. One other animation thing I'd recommend on Disney Plus is back in 1945, right after World War II ended, Salvador Dali and Walt Disney actually started like collaborating on an animation together, and it kind of fell apart for different reasons. And so it's just kind of lost to time. But I believe in 1999, Roy Disney like found like all their notes and production stuff, and he commissioned what they were working on to be produced. And so the result of that is called Destino, Destino.
Okay.
Super surreal, super like dreamlike, and
like Fantasia, like
yeah, but even like more intense than Fantasia.
So there was like heavy drug use was made when they're.
I'm not saying one way or the other. Like, you be the judge, but in my opinion, it's a masterpiece. It's beautiful. It's only like 6 minutes long, but like it'll change you.
Oh,
it's one of those great pieces of art, in my opinion. So, and that's just on Disney Plus, and they don't talk about it at all, but it's super worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a new corner. Like the hidden gems of Disney Plus. There,
I hope so. I hope so. It's also on YouTube if you don't have Disney Plus, but I didn't tell you that.
Good to know.
All right, Anne, what have you been up to? Anything geeky and nerdy?
I think geeky. When the last Avatar, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, came up on Netflix, I'm like, I'm rewatching this. I love it. So
You're talking about the series, right? Not the
series,
film.
Yeah. No. The series. No.
Okay.
The series. So I'm totally in the yip mode right now, which is great.
Oh, fun.
Also, perhaps not that nerdy, but for me, very, very interesting. Being an immigrant, I watched. Pretty much binge watched Mrs. America on Hulu, which was really great for me.
Wow.
To catch up on women's liberation in the United States.
Interesting.
And Kate Blanchett rocks. The whole cast is amazing. And the music is cool. Like music supervisor did a good job as well, which is always super important for me. That's always the like, do I like it or not?
Right.
Wonderful.
And so, we have a deck here, which is great. So I just sat outside beneath the tree and watched Mrs. America, which was great.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
That's paradise.
It was really good. It was really very, very interesting, not just historically what was happening in the US when it comes to women's lib, but also for me. Like as a trigger to reflect upon what's going on, what I meet in an everyday life as a female producer in the music business for a lot of years now. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm actually just tolerating a lot more than I want. So that's over. And so that was really interesting.
Rips jacket off like,
I'm like, enough is enough, really.
Yeah. It's like the least nerdy thing I've heard all day.
The name of that series once again?
At all.
Okay, nerdy for me also means important, and this is really important. I'm sorry.
There you go.
It's gonna create. It's creating her creativity, so that's why it's gonna be nerdy later. See, it's like getting the juices flowing.
Yeah, and you said the female perspective, so here it is.
Yeah,
it's important. So
absolutely. What's the name of that series? One more time.
Mrs. America.
Mrs. America. Wonderful.
It's about Phyllis Schlafly and all the shitty things she did against the interests of women. So that's the nerdy, crazy thing. It's like a woman fighting women's liberation.
Oh.
Are you kidding me, right? So, no, very, very interesting. I just can recommend it.
Nice.
Wonderful. Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Craven. What's nerdy in your world?
I haven't nerdy. A lot of the same stuff. Hamilton, did that. Helped my mom set up Disney Plus to do that. Let's see. The most nerdy thing I did, I think I set up like a new alert to go off every half an hour with a sound that starts and then fades out. That like starts to wake you up and then lets you go back to sleep so you can remember to check if you're lucid dreaming or not. Is that nerdy enough?
Absolutely, yeah.
That is
okay,
very
cool.
nerdy.
That counts?
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any changes from that?
It checks that box. Well, I'm a huge lucid dreamer. I mean, I'm going to nerd out pretty bad right now, but
go for it.
That's one of the things that I'm really interested in. I've been interested in it for many years. I was like looking at a lot of the work by Stephen LaBerge and a lot of other pioneers behind lucid dream research. And, that's one of those things where once you find out that it's a thing that exists and you can actually get better at it, like any other skill, it can have sort of a weird impact on your life. So for a long time I was into it and then I kind of let it fall off. And then since things started to get a little bit wonky with the situation today, I just started falling back into it and getting interested again in it. So one of the weird things that I'm up to now is like trying to hone that skill again.
And you ever tried the Robert Monroe binaural?
That guy is interesting. I don't know if I really believe his thing. Like he definitely thinks that like when he's like leaving his body, that he's really leaving his body, which is interesting.
Definitely.
I'm not so sure about that. Like I'm not opposed to the idea, but like I'm not quite on that level, I mean,
you're not like doing a Doctor Strange kind of astral plane thing. Yeah, you're just
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done experiments. I've put things like out of view that you can only see from a certain height or perspective to see if I can, see what that is. I've tried the lottery numbers. I've tried it all. And none of those tests seem to have worked out. I'm sorry to report, but I'm going to keep trying until I break through and Doctor Strange it to maximum. That's what I'm doing now. That's awesome. That's what I've been doing.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And I got a milkshake. That's the last. It was like a double stuffed Oreo milkshake. It was awesome.
Hey, whatever will keep you going. I don't mean to pry. If it's too personal, then just tell me. But is it like lucid dreaming? Is that a personal growth thing? Is that like a creativity thing?
It's like all of that.
Okay.
I mean, the thing that sold me was, as a musician, one time I had a lucid dream and I was able to create an instrument in the dream. Sort of, you can't necessarily create things out of thin air because dreams follow a certain continuity. Much like a film in a certain way. And you can't necessarily just like, snap your fingers and Harry Potter things into existence, but you can sort of find your way through a dream into a situation. So, if you believe that maybe something is behind a door in the dream and you open the door, it might be there behind the door. There's certain logic streams there. But I was able to use an instrument. And then when I woke up from the dream, I was able to sit down at a piano in my apartment and actually play the piece of music that I had dreamt about. And what was so strange about it was that I was able to do it. I don't have perfect pitch, right? And I'm always in awe of people that do. But what was strange about it was after I had this dream, I was able to go and play the piece and it was in the correct key. So like in my lucid dream, I had perfect pitch, but not in my waking state. And that's just totally bananas to me.
Wow.
I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that tracks. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
Absolutely.
You lost me on milkshake, but I'm okay. No.
I'm still hung up on that. It was delicious.
Oh.
It was so good. I'm going to go back tomorrow. I'm not stopping.
Right.
Wow.
That's cool. I mean, like,
but personal growth is there too. Personal growth is it's there as well. Yeah.
Inception is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And that stuff is like the best, but you're not going that level, but it's close. It's close, dream inside a dream.
I think the thing that's cool about it is you can, because dreams are not in any way limited by anything in the cosmos. You can basically, it's sort of, you're limited kind of by your imagination, So I'm going back to that milkshake in my next lucid dream. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you say that this is nerdy and Miss America is not, because what you're talking about, that is my reality. This is my everyday night.
Wow.
We don't keep score during Cantina Chat. It's not like, okay, that's 10.
No, I just wanted to say it's cool. It's great. It's cool to hear that. It's cool to hear that. I'm always super interested in that. That's cool.
That's fascinating. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I'm sure we could do a whole podcast episode on that, but we do need to keep moving.
Let me know when you want to do it. I'm a pro.
Yeah,
we have to be all drinking. Yeah, we have to all be drinking chocolate shakes when we do that.
Yep. Awesome.
I don't like milk.
All right, JD, we do need to pay some bills, and word on the street is you're the man with the plan.
I potentially might be the man on the plan with the thing that can maybe do the thing. I don't know. I don't know who you've been talking to.
Go for it. Give it your best shot.
All right, everyone, let's go and pay some bills. It ain't easy living with a price on your head. In fact, it's not easy living at all. So why don't we try and make some money together? Because money, of course, can buy happiness, as everyone knows. So we have some fine things on the social medias. We've got Heather at Hawk Awesome. We've got Carla at Carla Giacomo. We got Todd at Tazod. That amount of Z's, if you can quantify that, please, into a picture. We've got Aaron at Aaron Julian. We've got Red 5 Network at Red 5 Network, and of course the whole WSTR family at WSTR Media, except for me, because I don't believe in that stuff. Like, it just doesn't exist in my mind. If I lucid dream about it, I can't make it, and I never will. You can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. Yes, WSTR does stand for certain numbers, but I don't feel like sharing them. So we want to hear from you, and we want to hear your gorgeous voice blasted across the galactic HoloNet. Don't be shy. The Force will be with you, even as we make fun of your voice. Our entire back catalog of episodes and all the links can be found at podcast.wstrmedia.com. And you should check out Audible. If for some reason you don't know what Audible is, if the Amazon overlords have not yet installed Skynet into your home, well, why don't you go get a free trial? audibletrial.com/WSTR. Get a 30-day free trial. Get a HoloNet. Get an Alexa. Let the government and these companies listen to every single thing you say.
Just listen.
So you can have a conversation about some rug, and then all of a sudden China will be sending you 50 rug adverts every single day this month. And download your free audiobook at Once again, audibletrial.com/WSTR. We've also got merch at store.wstrmedia.com. You've spent your money on more stupid things, so why not spend it on us? And we've also got our Patreon, patreon.com/WSTRmedia. Thank you to our wonderful supporters, current patrons, Jason Handy, Jeremy Myers, Scarif Scuttlebutt, Army John, Elena Strikes, and Nicholas Chaffin. That are all of our bills paid. If you didn't understand that, I'm sorry, but if you subscribe to Patreon, you'll get a slowed down version of this entire thing, along with all these hopes and promises we can't deliver. And that's all of our bills paid. On to the news.
Woo! Woo!
I don't know how to follow that. Oh, man. All right. Well, it is time to tease some news. So let's do those news teasers. All right. Looks like I've got 3 items for you guys today. Everybody take just a deep breath. Here we go. Is it like back?
Oh?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, miles and beeps.
Huh?
And then lastly, we're dropping some cargo.
Oh.
That's
I'm
it.
so
That's
confused.
all.
I need to know.
Me too.
I need to know.
I'm lost. This is a must know situation.
All right. Well, if
You can do Craven. You can do that in the show notes. Just scroll down. You're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to wait.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yes. I mean, if you're watching us live with our YouTube live stream, then you have to wait and hang out with us. If you're doing the recording, then by all means, just fast forward through till you get to the news. But that seems like cheating. So let me instead offer you the following. Let me provide some trash to you by way of the Twitter trash compactor. All right.
My God.
Oh, no. All right. You guys understand what we do. We talk about something nerdy, Star Warsy, and then the week after we have to tweet about it because that's what the cool kids do. And generally we say we need some info from you. So here we go. Time for hashtag Twitter Trash Compactor. What is your favorite hashtag Obi-Wan Kenobi? Comments are always welcomed because we can't do everything ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So Twitter
only has 4.
Well, and
choices.
Twitter only has 4 options, so it's limited. So we have Kenobi from The Phantom Menace. We have Kenobi from Clone Wars. Of course, we have Kenobi from A New Hope. And then the beloved Kenobi Force Ghost. So I did some peeking, and it looks like we've got a couple write-in question commenty things. But before we get to those, I think it's important that we go around the room and everybody respond with your favorite Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm going to start with Anne. Anne, do you have a favorite Obi-Wan?
No. I have to pass. I'm a sucker. I suck hard.
Okay.
Oh,
that is an acceptable answer in this podcast.
No shame.
Oh, good.
Not a big fan of Obi.
No. Yeah. No.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Craven.
Favorite Obi-Wan.
Right?
What does that mean? I don't understand the question. Is it as vague as it sounds? Like,
or is
favorite
it as
Obi-Wan, like,
deep
in what sense?
as it is? Right. Mm-hmm. It could be
Favorite
deeper too.
Obi-Wan.
I know. It's hard.
I mean, I just can't stop loving Ewan McGregor just doing Obi-Wan, you know? I'm a little biased because I actually do Obi-Wan for the voice of Obi-Wan. Like, I do a really bad impression of Ewan McGregor doing Obi-Wan, doing his Alec Guinness impression for our overdub series.
Oh,
so I can do a really good like Obi-Wan yelling voice. Like
give
when
it to
he's
us.
like, I need a line. You got to give me a line.
is this something you would like to share with the rest of the class?
Let's see.
Like when he's like yelling, maybe he's like yelling at Anakin or something. What's a good line? You guys would know this more than I would.
Another happy landing.
He needs to be yelling though. It's the yelling voice when he's upset. What about when they're?
You will be expelled from the Jedi Order.
Let's see.
It's too much pressure.
Give me a Mustafar line.
You are the chosen one.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, that's like you are the chosen one. That's kind of like.
I'd buy that for $1.
Well,
right.
I still don't know how to answer. I'll just stick with that.
I'll take it. I accept that answer.
All right, it's my favorite Obi-Wan, I guess.
So I think we'll just put that into the Phantom Menace. Well, maybe not. No, because it's more Return of the Jedi.
It's a write-in.
It's a write-in. We're going to consider that a write-in.
Phantom Menace, Ewan McGregor just yelling at little kid Anakin.
Maybe would have saved us some trouble. Anyway, Aaron Julian.
Oh my goodness. Part of me likes Force Ghost Kenobi because he could just kind of show up whenever he wants and cause trouble. And that appeases the troublemaking side of me. But I'm gonna have to go with A New Hope Kenobi.
Interesting.
The wise old wizard, the Merlin kind of figure. That's what really resonates with me because Alec Guinness lived up to that archetype so powerfully in that movie. That, to me at least, it kind of transcends every other interpretation of Obi-Wan. I know that's highly biased and
hold on
whatever.
a minute. How many episodes have you guys done? Like 150?
This is 180. Yeah.
79.
107. You guys have never talked about your favorite Obi-Wan before? I don't believe it.
I don't think the subject has come up.
If you want to double check us, our entire back catalog of episodes can be found at podcast.
Don't believe it.
Only 179 episodes to go check.
Oh man, we got to save stuff for future podcasts, I guess.
Of course. This is a really special episode, like the one that you talked about, your favorite Obi-Wan. That's major.
We've talked about Obi-Wan specifically as like a main topic 3 times. Episode 4, from a certain point of view. And episode 43, when we talked about the Mortis trilogy. And episode 179, our last episode, when we went into Obi-Wan in depth. So that's what I got for you.
All right. Well, JD, you generally always have an opinion on something. What's your opinion on this one?
What? Where would you get that idea, Heather? I don't know what you
got people making things up.
Making things up. Gossiping on Twitter again. So yeah, I think the obvious answer, the obvious choice here is Kenobi from the Clone Wars movie / show, both of them. He's just so iconic. I think most of the lines that you remember from him are either from episode 2 or episode 3, but episode 3 is also the most fun to make memes about. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a different category. But I'd say his most iconic lines are either from the Clone Wars or from the episode 2 movie. And yeah, they kind of just really define him in that section of time and that character, which if you go back to listen to episode 179, you'll talk about how there's actually 2 different characters, but that's a different discussion. And yeah, I think it's the obvious choice, but I think in this case it's the correct one.
As long as we know which one's the right one.
Bold words.
That's what I'm here for.
Oh my goodness. Well, Todd Hoffman, do you have an opinion on a favorite Obi-Wan Kenobi moment or location, time period?
Location. Well, he was in Tatooine for 18 years, so that's pretty much where he was at for a long time.
Yeah.
I think you know, the one thing that I would say about Obi-Wan that you guys didn't touch on last week is that his commitment to stay at Tatooine to see Luke through is like probably his biggest contribution to the Jedi Order, because it's like he's lost so much in his life and he still maintains some integrity to stay with the cause in a sense. He chooses not to follow his own path but stays with the light, you know. I think is a big thing for Obi-Wan. But to answer this poll, definitely I would say it's not on this poll, but I would say the Revenge of the Sith Clone Wars era is probably the best Kenobi. So,
well, Todd, you're not wrong. There were several other people who were like, I think we're missing something here.
Yeah.
So, we have at OUAT Lover 468. I'm guessing that's Once Upon a Time, which is an excellent show. So I do support that decision.
Oh, geez. You pulled that one off.
You cracked the code.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm here for the nerdum, people. Responds with, how is Return of the Sith Obi-Wan not listed or not here? Excuse me. I can read. And then we have at Poison Ivy 2425 with, again, the Clone Wars and Return of the Sith. So
Revenge of the Sith. It's not Return.
Oh, I'm sorry. Revenge of the Sith. Well,
Revenge of the Sith. It was
whatever.
It was Revenge of the Jedi, but then they changed to Return of the Jedi because the Jedi can't have revenge. Come on, get with it.
Okay, listen. I am also the person who kept constantly saying Boba Fett and Jango Fett. So I got that sorted out too.
Yeah.
All right.
But my meme game was on point with our good friend Jamie, because I memed I have failed you with Obi-Wan. And I thought that was right on point for Revenge of the
Totally.
Sith, so.
Perfect. So, well, Twitter has indeed spoken, with the Force Ghosts getting a mere 1% of the vote.
Out of 236 votes?
Yes.
Ooh.
Is that like
two people?
6 votes?
Oh.
Is that like 6 or 2 votes? Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 votes. Yeah.
It's not good. Our Kenobi from A New Hope only got 6%.
Yeah.
Gone but not forgotten.
And right. Kenobi from The Phantom Menace got 17%, so at least hit double digits. So, standing strong. But with a solid 76%, we're talking Clone Wars here. Clearly the movie animated series, it's the best expansion of that character. That would have been my vote as well. So
there you go.
The fans have spoken.
There you have it. So whether you think you were right or not, this is the answer according to Twitter.
Well, JD's right, so that's why it's right.
That's but anyway, so
right.
So there you go. That is your Twitter trash compactor news.
All right.
I didn't have a good transition, guys. I dropped the ball.
All good. Well, that's about as good a time as any to introduce our main topic. Okay, we are joined by some guests today. As my voice cracks, we have
you're so excited.
I know. I'm very excited, and she's excited.
Hey-o.
Miss Anne Wiekman, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, hello. Hey, Aaron. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me and having us.
Yes, thanks for joining us. And we have Mr. Craven Morehouse joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It is great.
Two very strong German names. They represent two different musical acts and represents She's Excited and Craven Auralnauts. Okay, so to set the stage, we got a message from you through SoundCloud of all places that you were releasing a Star Wars themed EP and you were reaching out to different Star Wars podcasts to talk about it. You know, I'm the only one who looks at our SoundCloud, and I was sleeping at the switch, so we're a bit late on that. It's already out, but you know, it's never a bad time to talk about music. So we got you on the show, and we would like to talk a little bit about your musical journey. But first, a little question we ask all of our guests because we are interested in how people actually experience Star Wars for themselves. So for both of you, Anne and Craven, how did you get into Star Wars? Let's start with Anne first.
A friend of mine that I know from early childhood actually introduced me to it. And when the remake of the first 3 movies reappeared in the movie theater, I'm from Munich, right? I'm from Germany, but we had one movie theater in the city that would always show the movies in the original language, which might sound crazy to you, but in Germany, it's an exceptional thing because basically every movie is dubbed in German. So that is always like a unique thing if you can, like back then, if you could catch something in the original language. And
yeah, we don't do foreign movies here in America. Unless you find like a weird art house cinema, then
yeah, right.
And so he actually, that is, he get like, I mean, I had seen the original movies on TV, but he then said, "Hey, let's go to the cinema." It was called the cinema, and see these 3 remakes, and that was really cool. So that was my first step in.
Fantastic. And when was this?
That was
97.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in the second part of the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
97.
Awesome.
She's talking about special editions, 97.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And Craven, what about you?
I don't even know. I mean, Star Wars is such a part of the, cultural pop culture landscape. Like, I don't even, it's hard to even point when I, got on board with it. Like I missed that sort of first wave, the Star Wars craze when it first happened. And then I had older brothers and sisters who were really into it. I sort of got on board with the toys. I was into the toys, I think the marketing got me good.
Merchandising.
Merchandising, like scoop me up. And it was like, you're the guy. The actually really started connecting me to Star Wars was the score to the film. I just, ever since I was a little kid, classical music, I played classical piano, and I was always into film scores from like a really young age. And, like just pretty much all of John Williams' work that I fell in love with, even at a really young age. And it's interesting how something like that can distinguish something from other films in a similar genre or place, or I feel like the score did more heavy lifting than it may get credit. Not that it doesn't get credit, of course, but I think that sometimes the score may be more important than people even realize with those films.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that sort of hooked me was the music. And maybe that's why we just keep doing Star Wars stuff. Auralnauts. I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of the other Star Wars stuff that we do as Auralnauts, but we'll probably get into that at some point. Hopefully, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. It's always interesting to see how different people experience Star Wars in different ways and the kind of common threads that arise from that. So let's back up a little bit and talk a little bit about your musical journey, both as yourselves and in this kind of collaboration that you had together on this EP. So, and maybe let's talk with you first about your musical journey. How did you first start to begin to learn about music and kind of adopt it as a way of life? How did that? What does that story look like for you?
Well, when I was 3, my parents put me in a music class for little children because they figured out she really likes it. So this is when it all started. No, I was super happy about that because back then, like in that kiddies group, we had a ton of different instruments, and I could check them all out. And we even played concerts and stuff like that. So that was cool. But actually, yeah, I'm not kidding. I don't know. Like music, since I can actually remember, is just my life. There's not a conscious thing like now I am going to start writing music or something like that. I mean, I know the first time when I was on stage, I was 15, and I actually like started to seriously play in bands when I was 16. But I think it was just that age because then my parents were like, okay, now you can just stay out at night and do that. Right? Otherwise, I would have done it earlier, I guess. So, yeah, it's just a thing that I do. I actually like, perhaps the interesting thing is that I once in a while figured, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this still? It takes up so much time and nerves, and sometimes I feel like it's killing me. And I started to quit. I tried to quit making music, I think, twice. And I think I lasted for about 2 months. And then I was like, oh, no, that is not good.
Oh, no.
It's not good. It is really something that is within me and that I really enjoy. It's my medium to express myself, and it's very, very important to me.
That's awesome. That's why you can't quit.
That's why I can't quit. Yeah. As long as something goes through me and ideas and material is there, there's no way to quit, which is wonderful. I'm super grateful for that.
Wow, that's fantastic. And Craven, what's your musical journey look like?
Sorry, I lost you there.
Yeah, what does your musical journey look like?
Gotcha. I just want to say, Anne, that really resonates with me, and I'm always impressed when people perform. Because performance is so much different than what I do, which is, production, kind of behind the scenes. I mean, you also produce, obviously, but like, I'm so impressed when people get out and put themselves out in front of people and perform. That's just like what blows my mind. I like you, and I started playing, piano when I was like a kid. I can't even separate it from my first memories as a child. Like there was always a piano there, and composition was something that I started becoming interested in also at a very young age. Like I loved music, but I also had a certain passion to come up with my own musical ideas in some form. And that eventually just took off as music composition, which is something that I pursued like my whole life. I kind of ride the balance between electronica and more like traditional orchestral work. And so I work in film and television doing scores and things, but I'm always pulling and tugging and sometimes mixing and matching electronica with other types of scores. And I think maybe it was a good fit for us to, work on this album together, doing music based on John Williams' incredible scores and choosing electronica as the medium, yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like Anne was saying, it's a passion that's just there, and it's hard to, I can't say that I've ever thought about giving it up. I don't know that I could, even for a couple of months. I don't think I could. But I appreciate that too. That you were like, no. And then you're like, yes, I must have, it takes strength to do that as well.
It seems as natural and necessary as breathing for you two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, passions are weird.
Yeah, it is weird, right?
Right?
JD's DMing every other night, so yeah, it's passions are very weird,
Yeah. Awesome. So, Anne, you had your work with She's Excited as your kind of musical project, and Craven, you with Auralnauts. How did you end up collaborating together on this Dark Side EP, and why Star Wars with that?
Yeah, Anne, do you want to? I mean, we met at a really crappy conference, like a music conference. Conferences they go either way, right? They're like, I really scored there. Met the right people, hooked up with the right thing, and then other times those conferences are like grim, just not. But the thing that happened was Anne and I did meet, and we like hit it off like immediately. It was just like one of those weird, like you see each other like outside the space after a session, and you're like, hey, let's all go grab a beer and talk music, And then I think the idea of the Star Wars EP, like, Anne, that was all your.
I don't know. The thing is, like, we spent this evening together, had some food and a couple of drinks, and exchanged like our SoundCloud and Spotify and whatnot, and because it was immediately clear that we might actually like each other's music, like when we talked about it, like genre-wise and everything.
Right? Yeah.
And so, like, overnight, I listened to Craven's and Auralnauts stuff, and I was just incredibly impressed. Like, I'm super impressed.
Likewise,
with Craven's production skills, with his composition skills, with his visions. I was just an immediate super big fan, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Likewise.
And so the next day, like the second day of the conference, I come back and we meet each other, and I'm like, dude, I love it. I love what you're doing. And like, it was really interesting because I just had that thing in my head that I figured, hey, for the last Star Wars movie, I would like to reimagine Rey's theme, right? She's the female main character. It's a thing. I think women are underrepresented in so many layers of like film, acting, music, everything. And so I figured, hey, it would be cool for me to cover that iconic theme, right? And so I already had, like, when I met Craven, I already had like a very raw mix of my version of Rey's theme. And then when I learned about like his whole like universe of Auralnauts, you certainly have to talk about that. I'm like, this is meant to be. I have to tell him about it. And so we started talking about that, and he had great ideas, and he thought big, which I really loved, meaning like, hey, let's do a full EP and not just 2 songs or whatever.
Right.
And we went from there, right?
It seemed like just the right thing to do. I mean, when you had that idea of doing music by John Williams, but in this other, way, I mean, people have done, there are lots of different ways you can approach these things, right? You can do like a remix, or you can do, and work with that kind of a thing. But I think, Anne, with your idea was like, let's take some of the themes, some of the melodic material, the thematic material, and try to sort of make new pieces, that have a little bit more richness there, or attempt to do that. Pieces that actually work with the thematic material in different ways, rather than just sort of like a straight up like remix or something sample based. So that struck me right away, your vision for that. And I was just totally on board. Yeah. And then we just started sharing ideas back and forth. We worked largely independently from one another. I don't think we never actually got into a studio together and like pressed buttons, slapped on keys, together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like just the two of us, like in a room together. Like
Right.
it was just we were completely independent working on things, but we were definitely sharing ideas back and forth, sending music files and parts and pieces and stems and splits and all those things. And and then we decided we had to break it out. We decided that a couple, one of us would be responsible for. We chose our themes. We chose the ones that spoke to us that we wanted to work with or adapt, and then we ran with those. And then we worked on a couple together, and that was really cool. I'm really happy with the ones that we did together.
I mean, could you expand on that process a little bit? Because again, for people that are not like totally musically inclined, like, so how does that work? Like you said, you have that main theme, and then are you just kind of passing those ideas back and forth? Are you getting on a call together? Are you just sharing files and then you kind of come back? How does that kind of work? It's
interesting because I don't think we ever sat down and said like, what is this going to sound like? It was just like make
more
stuff.
Of experiment. Yeah.
Yeah. Make things, send them over, and then we'll decide if it's working or not. Cool. And everything kind of clicked. You can hear some things on the album are a little bit different coming from the two of us in a sense, but as we were working together, we were also kind of honing our styles in towards one another. So a new sound was kind of emerging.
Cool.
From the things that we were doing independently.
I also think like a big advantage is that we both like drama in a way. We both like dynamics, I think, and we both like reimagining without betraying the original in a way. I think, right? These were kind of like basic features that we, without actually really talking about that a lot, it was just like a thing. Because I guess we both can read sheet music and everything, but I don't know. I never felt that this is a thing. I just listened to the themes that I chose and picked the melody lines that I really thought, okay, this needs to be in there. This is the iconic theme that is really representing that character. And then you go from there and you just get creative, right? And that was basically kind of it. And we were, I don't know, without talking about it a lot, like what we came up with, I think that was always the thing. Like have the main theme in there, like really preserve what John Williams had in mind, because it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
And then like underneath it, get a little bit creative and get this dark electronic thing in it.
That was definitely always the number one rule, was like stay true to John Williams. Don't like betray his themes, but see where you could go with them. So like a lot of the themes come through pretty clearly, or they cut through in a way that it's like that is not that is like exactly the melody, that is exactly his theme. But then sometimes we were interlacing multiple themes, like in Skywalker. Rey's theme is intermingled with the Skywalker theme, and Kylo's theme like makes an appearance in there, but it's all kind of woven in to the piece. And like Anne was saying, it's you sit down, you like listen to the score, you get into it, you kind of think that might be a cool part to use a different instrument performing. Opposed to, the lead being a horn or something, or like a flute. What kind of weird texture could we build, using the same melodic material or thematic material? So it's like some experimentation there. And like, Kylo's theme, you want that to be like a really dark, gross track. You want it to be like, you don't want that to be like a light and fluffy piece,
like sludge.
Like you just want it to be like a sludging sludge fest.
Well, I think the thing that John Williams did in the sequel trilogy is he really did, like with Rey and Kylo's theme, they're very short, but they're very iconic, right? And like it's not like in the original trilogy where it's just more of these like kind of long pieces. Like the sequel trilogy, he really hones in Rey's theme is very short, but it's very, it right away. And I definitely like Skywalker, your track on Skywalker, because it is interlaced, and that's super cool. I like that kind of stuff where you can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. I mean, the Force theme is very iconic, obviously, with John Williams, but like if you interlay those two, that's where it gets really cool. That's some serious ear candy right there.
And he's the master of that. I mean, nobody beats John Williams himself at doing that. I mean, the guy's
right.
He knows how to take this melody, invert it, and then it's, it represents some darkness instead of some brightness. The guy is like the grand finale master of that type of manipulation. So we're just following his lead, that's all we're doing.
Well, Aaron, one of your favorite tracks is from episode 1.
Yes. I always forget the name of it. It's
I set you up, man. Come on.
I know. It's the celebration theme that they have at the end of the movie, where it's like da, 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 da,
the one they redid with the Ewoks.
Yeah,
no,
it's
no.
It's like
you're talking about Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it's like a major key version of the Emperor's theme, where it's like.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so he just speeds it up, and it sounds happy. It's like, oh, this is great. They're celebrating,
Yeah.
And, Boston Austin's like, peace. You're like, oh, yay. And then it's like,
yeah.
Wait, this is the Emperor's theme just like sped up. And it's like, that kind of stuff I find very fascinating music. And you're right. You can't outclass John Williams, but I really feel like you guys definitely brought a different, it's not samples, which I really like too.
That was important to us, right?
Yeah,
I use any samples, was to actually produce, like get in there and get dirty with it, and just really, really produce everything,
because you can have,
they're all instruments.
Yeah, I mean, all electronic stuff. I mean, you throw in a sample, put a hot beat on. It's like, oh, this is great. It's cool. But I really like how I made it very simple there. But
no, that's how they do it. That's how we all do it.
I mean, you put
secret,
right? You drop some Darth Vader quote in there, and then you have this hot beat behind it. It's like, oh, dude, this is great. This is the dark side.
We've done that too. I mean,
yeah.
We've done those tracks.
There's nothing wrong with like a little house music, with a little dark side, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I really do like what you guys did with these tracks. I felt like there was a lot more space in them than just, straight up samples, which I really did appreciate.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
Wonderful. Well, we do have some topics that we want to get to, but before that, we have a question that we post to chat that we would love your input on. We asked our YouTube live stream chat, what makes Star Wars music Star Wars music? And they had a couple of different answers. The Rebel Base Card podcast said, I would have said orchestra before, but the unique instruments of The Mandalorian changed my mind on it. And we also had Simplify Danny said, good question. I think the answer is that it's a piece of music that accompanies the film to the point that it becomes a part of the narration / character in and of itself. So I'd be curious from you two, what do you think makes Star Wars music Star Wars music?
I actually think both of those answers are correct. While there are some interesting things going on with the score to Mandalorian, which I love that score. John Williams was sort of known for doing these just massive orchestral works for films that maybe wouldn't have gotten that treatment at the time. Mm-hmm. He was going big with that stuff. So I think in a sense, the orchestra was, his handling of that when he was scoring, and to go so big with the thematic material and lock it in so tightly with the storytelling is a big part of what did it,
Absolutely.
I also would have said it's really, really iconic, and it's really narrative. I mean, that is classic scoring, but on such a high level that it's timeless. Right?
Yeah.
It's not getting old, which is beautiful.
I always go back to like Binary Sunset, and exactly what Luke is feeling, and that sense of like, I need to get off of this place I'm at, this Dust Bowl, and you feel that longing, like for something better for him. And like people you could relate to that, but that's also like done musically, which is weird because you can feel the emotion of that and like that hope. Like I'm trying to be better. I want to be better. I know I can do better, and like that's all done through music, but like, there's nothing, it's just a dude looking off a sand dune. That's all it is. But yet it's so much more, and it means so much more to like, it just gets you going. You're like, yeah, I've been there. I want to do something better. And, you're ready to grab your lightsaber or whatever, and you're ready to do this thing,
Yeah.
I think that's the power of John Williams. And again, like I said, in what you guys were kind of doing with the sequel trilogy stuff, is like you hear Rey's theme and that's Rey. There's no ifs and or, it's just Rey, and same thing with Kylo. It's like, and then what he does in the sequel trilogy interplays that all the time, and you're just like, yep, that's we got those two conflicting things, and it works really well.
Yeah. I think also something that's kind of unique about Star Wars music in particular, in my experience, not just with the movies, but also with the games and side content, that they've kept the thematic score for. Because you think about people like, or productions, I should say, productions like the Pirates of the Caribbean theme or Inception or a lot of these other iconic pieces of music. They do a great job of conveying the emotion and the intensity of the scenes in which they are placed. But Star Wars music always has a weird, uncanny ability to always give like a sense of scope. Like the Sunset theme that Todd was talking about. When you hear that and you see Luke looking at that, you get a sense that there's like this massive universe out there that at that time audiences had never seen. When you hear like the opening, episode 3, like the drums of war and
drums,
that whole scene, it leads you up to this shot where it zooms down and you see all of these ships fighting, and the music always makes you feel like there is more going on in the universe at that moment than simply the scene you're watching, right? If I hear the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, I think of the scenes in which it is placed. If I hear Star Wars music, I think of those scenes, and then I think of so many other memories come flooding in, so many other scenes, so many other characters, so many other moments. It has a weird ability that I think is credited to a lot of people, but really draws you into the entire universe. And that is one thing that Star Wars really has above any other narrative of fiction, is its universe and how deep and wide it can be.
Good point, man. That's a good point.
Well done.
Agreed.
Yeah, it always sounds bigger than itself. And okay, so question for Anne and Craven. Times are weird. Times are strange. And so in these kinds of weird times, what have you been doing to kind of get through the pandemic, civil unrest, just 2020? What have you been doing to get through 2020?
2020.
Insofar as that, like, insofar as that kind of intersects with your creative work.
You want to start? Well, okay, shall I start?
Yes.
It started actually for me as a very interesting and cool year. And I had a ton of plans, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I started January, February. I did an artist residency with another female producer, Electric Gin, here in New York City at a VR place called Jump Into the Light. And we produced music in virtual reality and then performed it in mixed reality, which was an amazing experience. It was really cool. That was the final like show that we did. Our final performance was 10th of March. That was basically the last day that I was out, because then like 3 days later we had the lockdowns. Like,
Right.
And it was crazy because I had like gigs lined up at South by Southwest in Austin, and I had gigs lined up at Loop Festival in Berlin and in Munich, because I had my new EP scheduled for May 2020. So when the lockdown happened, I felt like with 200 miles per hour, I just hit a concrete wall.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, shoot. That was really a weird thing. It was also a weird place for me to be in, because I was aware that this problem that I had on a personal level was nothing compared to all the horrible things that simply happened in New York City at the time.
Right.
And I felt like, yeah, okay, like get a grip. Like you're lucky. You just lost a bunch of money and you lost whatever, but nothing compared to what so many people are going through. Yet I have to admit, on a very, very personal level, that was super hard for me. I really hit a wall. At the same time, since, well, I mean, my EP and everything, the releases were scheduled, single releases were scheduled. It was so cool because Craven did, for my second single release, he did an amazing remix, which, thank you very much. So I had all that lined up, and it happened, but it felt like, okay, I have no control. It's like, I cannot promote it properly. I cannot play live shows. I cannot travel with it. And that was crazy. But with Electric Gin, I actually then started to host a weekly social VR show called The Future Is Now, which we did in Mozilla Hubs to make it possible for people to not only have the Zoom thing or the Instagram Live or the Facebook Live thing, but to actually come together, be in a room, talk with each other, walk around, and have an experience together. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and I shot a ton of music videos just because I felt like, okay, I'm not sure what to do. So I had my own COVID let's be creative experiences. I certainly came to a point where I thought, okay, I'll just do what I want to do. Like if I feel creative, I'm going for it. If not, not. Because I felt like so many people were just doing stuff because they couldn't just accept to not do anything. And I felt like, no, that's not my thing. I bought a kiddie pool and I read a ton of books while sitting in the pool on our deck. That was basically also.
That's not a bad setup. That's not a bad setup.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah. And then like a couple of weeks ago, I released a single and a video. My brother is in Austria, and we have an electronic rock music project together, and we released a pretty political single, including a video.
Cool. Awesome.
And also for the Black Lives Matter, I released a compilation with previously unreleased songs and a couple of collaborations that I did to support the movement and to get some donations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool.
Excellent. Well, Craven, how have you been coping with the pandemic, quarantine, civil unrest, all that, and how has that affected your creative work?
I looked at this question earlier, like when you sent it over, and I like didn't know how to answer it then, and it's hard to answer it now.
Yeah.
I think we're all going through the same thing. It's hard to stay focused sometimes, and it seems like a battle some days to stay prolific, and keep, certain projects on the map and think about where we're all heading. I had a little bit of a different experience from Anne, because I know, Anne, you're about being out there and putting yourself in front of people in these locations and, these venues. And I largely work out of a studio where I'm like producing it and working with people out of a location. So like my life didn't really change that much, but all of the adjustments that we're all making in terms of the awareness of these things, like it just kind of course it sneaks up on you and your friends and family, and it gets everybody, so I'm just trying to stay as positive as I can, as aware as I can be, keeping conversations going. We've done some fundraisers as well, trying to keep support where we feel like it's in the, the right type of support in the right spots. And just trying to help people get through it, and looking for, happy that people are there to help me. I do wish that I could just sort of like dive headfirst into more projects and get lost in them, and like pretend that nothing else is really going on. It's just so hard, right? To keep everything else like on the peripheral,
It really
sometimes
is.
I just want to dive into those chats and be like, no, you're wrong. And I just want to like have those, how many times do I lost track of my train of thought because I have to go respond to some jerk somewhere, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is not a good waste of my, it's just not a good use of my time, but it's like, just be part of that conversation so much. You just find your way into them, everywhere, everywhere. But how have you guys been doing? Like, have you guys been all coping? And
mostly, yeah.
I
think it's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I just wanted to say that, it's been weird for me because I'm in senior year of college, and when the lockdown happened, like all my friends moved away, and then that put a strain on my romantic relationship as well. And so that's been a new kind of hurt that I didn't know you could feel. And yeah, I identify with a lot of what you said, Craven, where there's a temptation to feel like this is, with lockdown and everything, it's a kind of golden opportunity to seize this kind of found time that you never had in order to be like hyper productive and get ahead of the curve and everything. And if people are able to do that, God bless them. But I was a lot more emotionally compromised than I thought I was, and I had to learn that it's this long running joke between me and a friend of mine where it's like, it's okay to feel sad sometimes. Like Mr. Rogers. And it really is. It really is okay to feel sad sometimes and not get a lot done, and just attend to the emotions that you're feeling, and not use these strange times as an opportunity to beat yourself up further, which I know is super common in creative types. So attend to those emotions. Don't just like bury them or attack yourself for having them. That's what I learned. But it's been a weird thing because like we still have had the podcast every week, and it's demanding on me to still show up for those every like time and time again. But it also gives a weird sense of like stability and security to be like, all right, no matter what happens, like we got to get an episode out this week. So it's been regulating for me as well.
Depends on it. Your audience depends on you.
Exactly.
And that's
terrifying.
And that's been another thing with the civil unrest and following the George Floyd incident, is like at one point we had to have a kind of internal conversation and be like, should we say anything? Like, what do we say? We have this platform. Like, how do we want to use it? And we decided,
you risk a lot of people coming at you, but you've done it. So that's cheers.
Yeah,
You know?
we took the
But
risk. We
yeah,
said what we had to say, and
Yeah.
came through it mostly unscathed. So
Yeah.
I think also too, it's like, hopefully, unfortunately with humans, as we know this, like we forget really quickly. So I'm hoping this time around that we don't, and we just continue to make sure that there is change always happening, and recognition of what things need to be, and I think that's where I'm hoping there was a reason for it. We all slowed down for a little bit, and then that happened on top of that. And it's just like, yeah, enough's enough. We need to figure out something to do better. We have to treat, it kind of goes back to that, the golden rule. It's like, you got to treat people with respect and love and compassion. And you just can't be all about yourself. And I feel like that's where, I feel that's where Star Wars also helps out with us, like trying to say, okay, something bigger going on here, and we need to kind of help each other out.
Yeah.
And so we did struggle, like Aaron said, we did struggle with like, should we really do an episode? Because it's not really, yay, Star Wars, it's more like, you know what, though, there is the reason Star Wars created was because of other things going on in the world. That's where George's original vision came from. And I'm like, we have to say something about hope, and that's what Star Wars does, and there's the reason you have fantasy is because you want to know that you could slay that dragon. And I feel like we can slay this dragon that is social unrest and, and equality. And we shouldn't be doing this in 2020, but we are, and we need to figure out a better way to do that. And it really starts with each other. So if we can help each other out and kind of grow that out a little bit, I think that's where you get change.
Yeah, that's great perspective.
Yeah. Heather, you were going to say something.
It was. I feel like a lot of it's already been said, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
No. I should stop talking. I didn't raise my hand. That was my issue.
That's it. That's it.
No, I think it's interesting. As a feeler myself, which I would argue most artists are a feeler in some capacity. And so you speak through whatever artistic endeavor it is. This has been nothing short of a traumatic year. Somehow you have been affected by this year, whether it's the health side of things, whether it's the closure of businesses and loss of jobs or, things of that nature. If you're affected by someone yourself or someone within the Black Lives Matter side of things, as of recent, of course, a lot of other things have happened within the year that have now unfortunately, moved to back burner conversation in light of some other things. I think what I love about this podcast and the other podcasts that are still producing shows, and what I've been very encouraged with Anne and Craven speaking about what they've worked on, with this album is there are things in our lives that are sensory memory, and they bring you to a place and they bring you that joy. And so for you to have that score or that piece of music or that, that smell or that visual thing or that cool breeze on a hot day that just reminds you of things that take you out of your headspace long enough to be like, okay, I'm going to take a breath and we're going to proceed forward. And I think, with Anne speaking about Ray's theme and just expanding on that, because someone it's like, I totally get that. I see exactly where it is. And now I'm experiencing it differently. And it's giving them the opportunity to finish working through their thoughts and feelings. And it could be something where someone who doesn't have the capacity to express how they're feeling, we're not all chit chatters or verbal processors or what have you, but, you can go to that piece of music or you can go to that film that has that score that you're like, okay, no, this feels safe, or this is how I'm feeling. Some days you've just got to be Kylo, and other days, you're not so emo, like I don't know what it is, but you find that balance. And I think, Anne and Craven, I think you're the perfect example of that. You've got someone who's willing to go to the forefront and say, I'm prepared to give you what you need, where Craven's like, you know what, I'm going to make sure that from back here, what needs to be made gets made. That's why I have such great appreciation for like Todd when he comes to putting the podcast together, and Aaron, our, Jedi master of all things electronics. I think JD's personality just brings a spunk to this show, and that's right. I called you out, JD, but in the most complimentary way possible. No, I just
diplomatic way.
And I love Carla having another female perspective, that we all bring something different, but it's what makes the podcast full, and it's what allows us all. You can't. Sorry, Hufflepuff is coming out a little bit. You can't.
Hufflepuff.
You have to work together to make it work. Every member of the family is important, and that's just what I've been really encouraged about. And it's been I say this. Please note, it's been a rough year, but what I love is the silver linings. That the fact that we are moving forward, and that I hope that people can find that.
Stick the landing,
And done.
Heather, what you said reminded me about what this particular musician that I follow said. He was talking about how music kind of runs deeper to the human experience than perhaps any of us actually know. And he described music as psychological cybernetics. And what he means by that is that with just playing music, you can change your thoughts, and you can change your emotions and your attitude and how you face life. And the example that he gave was that he was playing music at a club when he noticed a particularly untrustworthy guy kind of, being aggressive towards this particular lady that he thought he could get lucky with. And, she was rebuffing his advances, and he wasn't having any of it. So he actually changed the musician actually changed the music that he was playing. And the way he described it, he could play music in one way to get people to fall in love with each other, and play it in a different way to kind of split them apart. And so he played the music in a certain way to kind of kill the vibe, so to speak. And the guy who was being pretty aggressive ended up breaking it off and kind of going on his own way. And that was the effect that music had, even just like from a performer standpoint. And so I'm thinking of the way that music teaches us how to harmonize and to bring our individual talents towards a collective group effort and towards this kind of greater meaning that we have. And it's kind of a microcosm for what we really need in the world today, as far as, to stop with this polarization, to see each other for as we really are, and what we could become, what we could bring to the table. And it's, I think from a musician's point of view, it's super critical that we have this kind of music that can bring us together instead of drive us apart. I don't know if Anne or Craven, if you have any thoughts on that, but that's kind of what I'm getting from this whole thing.
I mean, I just totally agree with you on that. If I could, Anne, so as Auralnauts, and please check out our channel, because as Star Wars fans, there's a lot there that I think you could dig pretty deep into. There's a chance you may have even seen some of the stuff that we've done without knowing about it, because some of our videos had like some lucky viral success.
The internet is a crazy place. You never know when it's that viral hit, you know?
It giveth and it taketh away.
It's pretty crazy, but
also
the thing
you have to say Auralnauts is so good. Like there's no surprise that stuff goes viral. It's just so good. Definitely.
The thing is that the music, so one of the big aspects that we have on the channel is we do parody work and stuff, but we do original music. And one of the main focuses that we have is to make people laugh. It's comedy, it's parody, and we'll choose certain things to run with. Like we did a house track called Raylo, and it's like Kylo Ren like singing to Rey, and it's just like just like him doing it, like he's like singing the song, you know. Or we did like we did a piece called "Go to Sleep, Baby Yoda," and it's like the Mandalorian singing a song to Baby Yoda to try to get him to take a nap, you know. And the whole video is like this, you know, love letter to parents everywhere. But the music that we do is always aimed to strike a balance for people and never be divisive. You know, the music that we produce is always aimed at being something that can, if it's not making you laugh, then maybe it's bringing two perspectives together. So what happens with a lot of our music is that a lot of people are like confused by it because they don't know if like, well, let me put it a different way. You have people on different sides of like a political spectrum, both liking it. You know,
we're not supposed to do that,
and right. Sort of, yeah. But the thing is, it creates an interesting conversation because you have two groups. Then, like, they're like, "No, this is for us," and the other group is like, "No, this is for us." But then when they start talking in the middle, yes, you get some heat, but then you also get some people that kind of connect there, you know. And so it's one of the driving factors with the stuff that we produce is to spread a certain level of positivity, and God knows we all need to love. You know, a lot to get through some things. So comedy is important for us, and it's like that's always a driving factor. Is like, are people going to feel good after hearing what we're doing? You know, after what we're outputting. It's important.
Yeah,
it's a question we have to ask ourselves at times. You know,
I think what's important for me in my music is, I mean. My music is certainly dark, and also I think a lot darker than I think it is for a lot of people, actually. But what is very important to me is always to have this union of the opposites, and to always leave space for motivation, for empowerment, and for a positivity within my songs, so that these two these opposites come together in a way in my music. And no matter how dramatic the song might be, that everybody can get something very positive out of it as well. Yeah, and that might be a thing for this time right now as well. But it doesn't matter which time. I always think that that this is important. It's important also to leave space for sadness, to leave space for deep desperation, and not be afraid of it, but to make space and to be able to hold it, because it's a part of our lives as well. And right now, like in a very extreme form, like anxiety and confusion, and people are like this whole unsure situation. We're not quite sure what's gonna come and how like the next year is gonna unfold, and all these things. And also to make space for that, and to appreciate that as well, and not to back off and try to ignore it, rather than, okay, let's take a deep breath and have a look at it, and at the same time including positivity and good vibes and motivation and empowerment, and room for change and room for togetherness. Yeah, that is a very important thing in my whole life, but that is also a thing that I try to transport within my music.
Cool.
If I can respond to that with kind of my own religious experience, and also musical. within the Christian and Jewish tradition, we have our Psalms, which is a collection of songs that are sung in worship, and there's the entire range of human emotions expressed in those Psalms, where some of it is pure joy, some of it is pure anger and despair, and it reaches the lowest points of the human condition, which I think you would agree is sometimes where your music goes. But a consistent point with these Psalms is that even as low as they go, they still find space to, offer praise to the God who is in control of all things and is, the source of all good in the world. And so I think that's an important lesson to us, which I think might be expressed in your music, is that even as low as we can go, it's still important to keep that hope and to allow enough space for God to show up and to do what he will do, or at the very least, the possibility for good to flourish. And it sounds like that's something that you found with your own music.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I'm certainly probably a very spiritual person. Yeah. And I think everybody has their own interpretations when it comes to that. And that is also important, right? Because it doesn't matter how you interpret it or what you do with it. It's important that you personally have an experience and that you personally can feel that. However that is expressed. So yeah, I can relate to that in that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I feel
heavy,
like we can.
I know, seriously.
This got really heavy. I feel like we could go on.
Right? Yeah. No.
I feel like we could go on for like 2 more hours, but it's getting quite late in the evening. So,
Pasha.
very briefly, Anne and Craven, what can you share with our audience that you're currently working on? However you'd like to interpret that.
As she's excited, as I said, during the lockdown, I felt like I'll not do anything until I feel like doing stuff. But actually, 2 weeks ago, I felt like, hey, 2 songs are there. They just came out. So I just wrote 2 songs. That was really cool. So I basically started working on my new EP while still promoting my just fresh EP, which is called My Own Crazy.
Oh, cool.
It's just out on all digital platforms. So get it. And the haptic thing even has Craven's bonus remix on it.
Yeah.
Cool.
What is also really exciting is last weekend I got out, like, through this virtual reality residency. I met an amazing group of people from different fields, not only musicians, but painters, artists, and also people that are deep into new technology. And we had the opportunity to get to an insanely cool house in the Hamptons with a crazy architecture designed by a Japanese architects. And we went there and traveled through different realities. Augmented reality was a part of it, virtual reality, mixed reality. We had neurotransmitters. We had musical, like a cycle of life, birth, life and death. And that was the first time that I actually got out of this whole lockdown scenario. And it is a kickoff, I think, for a new, very cool project that I can do within this artist community, as she's excited. And I really appreciate that, because I love doing my solo project. Don't get me wrong, it's really cool and I really love it. But I also really love to work with other people at the same time.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And Craven, go ahead.
Collaboratives. Collaboratives are like so important. Some people work independently, but God, so Auralnauts is like is a collaborative between two people, myself and Zach Kuntz, who is like a writer. And it's been sad to not get together in the studio, because we get together and work and we just like laugh our asses off, while we're making stuff. And it's like some of our best material comes out of just being in the studio together, sitting down with an edit of whatever we're working on and just really, picking it apart. So it's nice to hear that you were able to get away out of lockdown, and we're going to try to do that too. That's something that we have coming up. Zach and I are going to try to do some form of sabbatical if we can find a bed and breakfast. An Airbnb anywhere that's like, or bed and breakfast. Who knows where it'll go? And we're gonna be working on a bunch of projects that we have in the works coming up for Auralnauts, and it's just like, I don't know, we're living that Star Wars life largely, like you guys. It's like
nothing wrong with that.
We have a lot of Star Wars projects just still coming down the pipeline. I mean, a lot of our fan base is and our audience is really, that's the stuff that really speaks to them. And we've done a lot of comedy around Star Wars. So we're working on overdubs of episode 7, 8, 9. There's always more music happening. We do a series called Fictional Fight Commentaries. It's like two guys that are sort of classic like fight callers, but they talk over like film fights as if they're live fights. It's
like
pretty
UFC
ridiculous.
Commentators.
Yeah, like UFC commentators.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, and we did like one of our favorites was the Obi-Wan Anakin fight on Mustafar, and it's so ridiculous. Like please, as Star Wars fans, like go and get into our channel. Like I promise, you will not regret it. It's just like we're a little bit too obsessed with the Star Wars, universe. But
there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, I mean, I'm not ashamed. It's just part of our language now, like that's not how we started, but we do now is Star Wars comedy. It's really weird to have like a little bit of being known for that, honestly. But that's always projects in the works. We're just trying to stay positive and keep busy, and trying to maintain a production schedule is tough, but it's important to keep doing that. And Todd, like you were saying, it's like you don't have to oftentimes worry about or get stressed out about like the grandiosity of what you're doing as an individual. You can still move ahead with smaller personal projects, things that don't seem to have a large bubble, but like will reach people. And you don't need to overthink it. Just be passionate about things, continue to be as prolific as possible and positive, and like keeping creative is going to be important. And there's a lot of weight on people right now, but it's like we don't have to all bear that weight, individually. We can work with each other, to carry it. So that's what we're trying to think moving forward, and always trying to stay positive as we enter new phases and projects and everything.
There you go. Awesome.
Cool.
Fantastic. And one last question. Where can people follow you on the social medias?
You go first.
Cool. So YouTube /Auralnauts is where we function as a comedy like duo, but that's mostly where a lot of our stuff is. And then we have music all over the place. Anywhere that you can buy music or stream music, we're there. And then Twitter @Auralnauts. And I guess Instagram, we don't really do much Instagramming, but I guess you can if you want @Auralnauts Official. Just to have that one, I guess, just in case.
Just in case. You never know.
Wonderful.
On Instagram, I'm @she's_excited. On Facebook, I'm so excited about music because they wouldn't let me. My name is too, I don't know, like She's Excited really is a thing. Like they banned that because they they think it's too naughty or whatever. Really interesting, especially like from a German point of view. I'm like, are you kidding me? So many guns in this country, and this is the problem. But okay,
That's crazy.
But yeah, like my music is also on all digital platforms. If you want to stream just like that, SoundCloud probably. If you got Spotify, use Spotify, like whatever. Yeah, and on
I found it
Bandcamp
on
you can
Google
get free
Play
download.
Music.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's so she's excited! Exclamation point. That's it.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. But we do have to wrap things up here. So
thank you.
Heather.
Thank you so much for
having
us.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it's been great. Heather, let's go ahead and tackle our news of the week.
Excellent. I mean, this is why you've been here the whole time, right?
Yes.
I've been waiting with bated breath.
Get some answers. All righty, folks. All right. So it looks like our first item is from Forbes.com with the headline of Box Office Star Wars sequel tops weekend for 45th time in 40 years.
Whoa.
So from May of 1980 to July of 2020, sequels and prequels to Star Wars A New Hope have topped the weekend box office more than 40 times.
Oh my God.
But wait, and yet another goofy little twist on the summer season that wasn't, The Empire Strikes Back is allegedly the top movie of the weekend, becoming the latest blockbuster of days past to again top the weekend box office. That's crazy, people.
Yeah, they re-released it, and not even in 4K.
And not even, we talked about that last week. I know it's 2K, and they still went in and saw it. So there you go.
So
unbelievable.
But I mean, you'll remember we've talked about Empire being the best Star Wars movies that was made. So are we surprised? No. Yes. No.
That's where you guys stand, just so we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Just making sure.
Just making sure.
Oh, that's so great.
Move along. Next one.
I'm moving along. All right. So some celebrations today, everybody. Dun, da, da, da. So Thantha Tracks, as well as every other part of the internet, has informed us today that Mr. Harrison Ford is celebrating a birthday. He is a young 78 years old.
Hey.
I mean, he looks great, right?
Yeah.
That's huge.
He doesn't really look 78.
That's what I'm saying, right? That's why we called him a young 78.
Yeah.
Must be all that space air helping the pores and such.
Hanging out with Wookiees.
I mean,
190, you know?
Right, totally.
Great.
But how appropriate is it that a legendary sound designer who was hired by George Lucas for Star Wars, Mr. Ben Burt, also celebrated a birthday.
My hero.
Yeah, my hero.
And you get a birthday, and you get a birthday.
Yeah.
But that's it, just the two.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, not everybody gets a birthday. You can have an unbirthday, but not a birthday.
That's very true.
Birthday, you can have a death.
Death day. Death day.
Okay, that took an awkward turn.
Moving swiftly on.
Swiftly forward. All right. Just like the news, fast and speedy, people.
That's right.
Decider.com for all things deciding.
Currently.
Right, I don't know. Solo, a Star Wars story, is coming to Disney Plus for summer movie nights.
Oh my
Netflix
God.
can't have it anymore.
That's
it's on
right.
Disney Plus.
Sorry. Yes. So while it's been on Netflix, it is now coming to Disney Plus. So be sure you clear your schedules, people. And who knows, maybe if it gets super popular, we'll get a sequel. Will Solo 2 happen? The
Maybe.
world will never know.
No.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
All right. Anne Craven, 30-second responses. Yes or no? Did we like Solo the movie?
What could they possibly cover in the second one that they didn't explain in the first one, which is every single thing about why he's Han Solo explained crisply and with like such minute detail. Minutia, I call it.
Minutia.
My own word. Why did they do that? Woo!
Wow.
That's how I feel.
Get to coin a new word for how you feel. Wow.
Solo. Solo.
Why? And why?
God.
Well, why? The one thing is like, why did you let the Empire name you? I mean, that's just.
Oh man. Yeah.
It doesn't sound right.
It's a real thing, people.
It's a real thing.
Like, why did they feature the Imperial March as a piece of music in the film?
It's meta, dude.
Like,
it's so meta.
That is not meta. That is a mistake. Like, that means that there's an orchestra. There's like a traditional orchestra in the Star Wars universe that plays the Imperial March. Like, that just goes against everything. You know, this is like huge sticking point for me.
Okay.
Like,
We said 30 seconds. Cut
I was
him
going
off.
to say
Cut him
30
off.
seconds. You're done. We're cutting you off.
No, I got nothing to add to that. Perfect.
It's okay. I have breaking news, people. Breaking news that was not teased earlier that just hit the shelves.
What?
If it wasn't teased,
This
can
is
we even handle it?
I mean, I don't know, but I think it's important. StarWars.com, our official website, is stating that Star Wars The Bad Batch is an all-new animated series set to debut on Disney Plus in 2021. For those of you who do not know, the Bad Batch made a, what's the word? Appearance?
Yeah, I would say
Debut.
Debut. That's better. Made a debut in the final season of the Clone Wars. So clearly, Star Wars is not over, people. They're continuing to get us good stuff. So.
Or bad stuff, but we'll still watch it.
Positivity, people. Positivity.
What's that? I have no idea.
Man.
This news literally released day of recording.
There you go.
Let's get it in there.
Thank you for dropping it on Monday so we can put it in the podcast. Thank you very much.
I arranged it.
There you go.
Had nothing to do with it.
All right.
So.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
All right. How about I wrap us up here, guys?
Wrap us up like an
again.
old mummy.
Okay. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. Once again, you can find us on the social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. You can comment, tweet, rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you give us a 5-star rating, not 4.5, not 3, but 5 stars, we'll throw some swag your way. Retweet or email us your screenshot and we'll get it to you. You can email us, mailbox at WSTR Media. You can leave us a voicemail. I know JD didn't give you the number. I'm going to give you the number, 630-557-9787. Operators standing by to take your calls. And we will play it on an upcoming podcast. You can find all our back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com. We got merch, store.wstrmedia.com. If you want to pay to hear JD and Aaron talk and Heather talk more, you can go to patreon.com/WSTR Media. Thanks for everyone that's hanging out in YouTube chats. We do this thing every Monday, and you can chat along and actually ask questions live, which is fun. Yeah, it's crazy. We're also part of the Red 5 Network, and that you can find at Red 5, the numeral 5 Network. All great stuff there. Once again, and where can people find you on the socials?
Instagram at she's_excited, Facebook / so excited about music.
There you go.
Spotify, all digital.
All those things.
Yeah.
All the things. Craven, one more time, one more plug. We always got to plug. You always got to close. So plug.
Yeah, sure.
ABC.
YouTube.com/Auralnauts, Twitter at Auralnauts. Those are the 2 best spots.
Yeah.
And then anywhere music streams or
there you
purchased or whatever.
wherever
you go in the world, just look around the corner in the darkness. We'll be there.
You'll turn around and
oh my gosh, awesome. Well, we really do appreciate you guys being on. It was such a blast. And
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we had fun. We got real heavy, and then we had fun again.
It was a roller coaster.
Thank you so much. You guys rock.
You gotta do it
No,
sometimes.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. It was nice to
And
talk
also
with
thanks for
all of
being
you.
able to get heavy. It's not always possible. And I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
totally.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Next week, we keep on going. 181. Oh man, super stoked about this. We have Lauren Mary Kim. And you're like, who's that? She is a stunt woman in Hollywood. She happened to just work with Ray Park and Dave Filoni on a little TV show called The Clone Wars. And she did the mocap for Ahsoka and the Darth Maul fight. And she is going to talk to us about being a woman in Hollywood and not just basically being a stunt person, which is going to be so much fun. She's been in Daredevil, all these other crazy things, and I can't wait to talk to her about everything that she has experienced. We also got this thing in the pandemic. Yes, we're going to try to get together, people. Dominic Pace, we had him on episode 149. He was the Gecko in chapter 1 and chapter 3 of The Mandalorian. And friends of our podcast, of many podcasts. He's been on quite a few, and he's going to be at Alley Cat Comics on Sunday, July 19th, and we're just going to happen to be there too. So he's going to be doing some stuff, trying to give back to local businesses as we're on this kind of shutdown thing. So yeah, check that out. Alley Cat Comics, July 19th, 2 to 5 p.m. Dominic Pace is going to be there, and we're going to be there with Scarif Scuttlebutt, Jedi Temple Archives, and us, and what other scum and villainy want to show up. So yeah, come check that out. Support a local business. Say hi to Dominic. He's a really nice guy. Yeah. And so there you go. And we're still on that road to 3,500. Please follow us. And we beg you, take this power from us. We got more prizes to give away once we reach that goal. So yeah, road to 3,500. That's it. That's a wrap. We end this weird podcast every week with this. And so, you ready, guys?
I'm ready.
Do it.
Now, this is
podcasting.